Alrighty guys, well Tim, the Trust Issues Mustang, is back at my house today. So last video of the car, we took it to the dyno. It made like 10 pounds on the dyno at like 97% controller on the light spring. And then he took it to the track the next day and it dropped like 120 in the quarter mile, which I told him that would make sense if it was on around 6 pounds. So he went and did a data log and looked at it and it was actually making 6 pounds. So he thought something was a little weird there. Put the different spring in it. And adding a second spring at 97% controller, it only went from like 6 pounds up to 8 pounds. So that was a little weird. I told him to unhook the solenoid for the controller from positive, so it didn't work. And then it dropped back down to 4 pounds. So we knew that the controller was working, but with 2 springs in it, it was only making 4 pounds. So I told him to drop it back off here and I would look at it and see what's going on. And I found a problem. I looked down here. It's a little hard to see on this angle, but this intercooler ended up cracking from here all the way up to here. So the intercooler from here on the backside is cracked from here all the way to here. So sometime between the dyno and now, that thing blew apart because it was making like 10.5 pounds on the dyno, and then when he was driving around ripping on it a little bit, it just started making less and less boost. And then at the track it was making 6, on the street it was making 6, and then it seemed like it was making less. Added the second spring to the wastegates and then it barely came up, so we knew there was a problem. So found that big crack. I'm going to pull this thing off and try to weld it, and we'll go from there. Alright, so took a flap wheel and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Hopefully we can get this thing repaired. And then what I'm also going to do is go around all these other edges, because these things I know are going to be thin. You can already kind of see the seam. You probably can't see it on the video, but you can kind of see the seam of the weld. So I feel like this is to a point where it's already going to be starting to crack. You probably can't see it on the video, but right there, there's actually like a little seam there. So we'll try to clean that up and at least get it to stick back together. I'm going to leave the weld on there. It's not going to look pretty, but you can tell, looked like somebody was already doing some repairs to this intercooler at one point. So maybe they already had problems with it before he got this thing. I don't know. Well, try this, see how it goes, and then what I would suggest to him is if this blows apart again, just get a different intercooler. Not worth really messing around with it too much. Alright, so I got this thing all in there and back together now. I did also add some rubber spacers. I cut up an old silicone coupler and added some rubber spacers between the hard mounting point and the intercooler now, just in case it was from twisting. I'm pretty sure it was just because the welds were ground down and it just blew itself apart. So because he added a second spring and now we don't know what wastegate is on this car, I'm going to pull the dump off the wastegate so I can see the valve move, and then I'm going to use the air compressor here. And I just took my old boost gauge out of my truck. Just going to verify when the springs start to move so we have an idea of what wastegate is, and then we'll go from there. As I got this little boost gauge hooked up, this is just the old one out of my truck. So it was okay. It wasn't completely accurate, but it worked. I'm just going to turn the air pressure up and watch when this valve starts to move. Alright, so there it moves slightly and it's just over 10 pounds on this gauge. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple different files for him. where he has 0% controller, because this is at 100%, it's like 97% right now, and it was still making 8 pounds with that big crack in it for some reason, but these two springs at 100 pounds was making 8, but this is going to make probably 10 or 11 now at 0, so I'm going to make a few different files, so he has a file for 0, and then a file for, I don't know, I might do like 40%, 50%, 60 or something like that. Alright, so that's about that. Did take it out for a little bit of a spin, just throttled it in first gear a little bit, and it jumps to like 8 pounds immediately. So it definitely had a boost leak, and that intercooler was cracking, and I wonder if it was like slowly cracking and then cracking a little bit more. Somehow it was still making 8 pounds of boost with that big crack in it. So those turbos must be moving a lot of air. Usually if it splits like that, it's not going to make any boost, but it was still making 8 pounds with that big crack in it. So it's pretty impressive. So he does have 2 wastegate springs in there now, so his base pressure is going to be probably around 10 pounds. So yeah, he's going to come pick the car up tomorrow, and we'll probably take it to the track one of these upcoming weekends. Hopefully this truck will be there also. I am working on a little update for this truck here. I've kind of been working on it all weekend as we're doing our annual plant sale. But there's a sneak peek, and I got the dash in there. Ooh yeah.